Hello everyone, it's been a while, but this is Jaxel Gaming, and today I'm going to be starting a new series, which is the Road to 2000 series. So I'm a 1500 on chess.com, and by this time next year, I want to be a rated 2000 player on the website. This is because I'm going to be entering a lot more tournaments this year, like real life tournaments, and I really want to do well in them because around this time at the moment there is the European Club Cup, and they are, well, the local chess team is playing there, and I really want to go there because it's in Serbia next year, and there's a lot of professional players, and I'd really want to have the experience of going there. But I need to be much better and much higher rated to be even able to play against them to start with, as they're usually around 2400 and I'm 1500, so it's not really going to be worth my time if I just get wrecked. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to go over what I know in the openings, and there are two openings I know, the Caro-Kann and the Queen's Gambit. So we're going to start with white, and that is the Queen's Gambit with d4, d5, c4. So at the 1500 level, most people decline. The standard Queen's Gambit declined. I usually play knight c3, they go knight f6, bishop pins. And this is kind of the first line that I need to look into, the modern variation. So as usually most games would go, either they immediately challenge the bishop. I'd sometimes pull back, sometimes I do take, so it really depends on how I feel. Sometimes they do block with the bishop, or rarely you would see knight d6, which is just if I take, and that's just winning. That, well, not winning, it's a big advantage for them since they'll be up a bishop in the end game. But so it usually goes around like that. Bring knights out, just standard development. Eventually I will end up taking in the center, just relieving the pressure of the system. So they castle, I push e3. Sometimes they will take in the middle of it and they will push b5, but that rarely happens. So let's just go through some moves. Takes, and then it's just standard play ready from here. That's as far as I know. Sometimes when I do want to do c4, they do c5, the Slav. Same thing, knight c3. That's just personal preference and how I play the Queen's Gambit. It's nearly always knight c3. Sometimes they do take, and they're planning to push b5 if they could. So I play a4. A6 isn't really an issue as bishop f4. So like if that happens, for example, takes, and they can't take back because the rook takes in a8, and then you're pressuring the b8 knight, and that's just winning. That game's basically over already. But some people just don't play a6. They just play knight out, pin again. That's probably not right by looking at Stockfish. So I'd probably have to improve on that. Like knight f3 is what the top move is according to Stockfish, the Albin variation. But yeah, so that's kind of it with the Slav. Sometimes they go out, takes, and they then end up pushing the pawn, or I don't take, go here, and then they have this little pyramid here, the semi-Slav. I'd say you need to look into all of these a bit more, maybe learn 10 moves of prep by the time October rolls around again, and then maybe a few more into certain lines that are much more popular at the top level. So what do they accept? This rarely happens anymore. Most people know that's generally a bad idea. Like, there's a lot of kind of tricky ideas. Like, you can't really play this because push. Most people end up going knight b4, which is a complete blunder. You lose a knight straight away. That's game over. In this position, people end up playing knight e5, but then I just take a bunch of space here, and it's not good. So yeah, it's most people don't like playing it. They just think it's very risky. But if they do, again, bring the knight out to c3. That's just personal preference. And it's usually knight c6, and I either play bishop g5, which is a bad move. Apparently, I'm not sure why. It's just kind of doubling the pawns. I know that's not generally a good idea, but sometimes I just do it because that's just how I feel. But the main line is e4, and it's just kind of basic play from here. Like sometimes people weirdly play b5. I don't quite understand that, but then they just kick out the knight and whatever. If put pawn push, some people try to fianchetto, but I just block. But then I don't like it because it kind of makes my d4 pawn weak. I don't like that at all. In the long term, it's weak. Not at the moment in this position. I'm winning, but sometimes they do pawn push. Sometimes they don't. It doesn't happen that often anymore. That's the only issue. It doesn't happen at top levels either, so I don't need to worry about this too much. Aside from d4, I don't play anything else. I would like to look into something like, I'm not sure, like, I like to do the English. That seems like an opening that I could look into, but since it's not commonly played very much, you rarely run into a c4 player. Yeah, the only other thing that happens with d4 is the modern defense, which turns into whatchamacallit. They bring knight out, kings. It turns into King's Indian basically, and this is really common at the 1500 level as people just really like it. But it's a very sharp position. I really need to look into this. Basic ideas in this would be bishop e2, bishop c3, castles, whatever. And it's usually just a fight for the center on the d4 and d5 squares. Some people play this way. I just castle and take stakes, and I usually win these, but they're very, very dicey. I could lose these very easily, so I need to look into them much more. And they're very common as well, at around 2000 level, I think. It's up until like you become a professional that it's not really played too much anymore. But yeah. So with black, if they play d4, I just play d5, and I just play whatever they play into, since I'll know it by then. But most people play e4. I play the Caro con against them, and that's just d4. Sorry, that's e4, c6. There's a few variations here on knight f3, d4, or knight b3. Sorry, knight c3 sometimes plays. But the general idea is that you always end up playing d5. And sometimes they push the pawn, not in this position. I don't really see why you do that, but if it was c6, d4, some people push. That's fine. You just push the pawn. I like it very much. It's very good for me since you pressure a lot, and it's more tactics than an open game. It's very closed. Some people take this is a very kind of dull game. Not much happens. You just draw all your pieces out and just work off from there. Maybe get some plans in. Yeah. What else is there? There's also a knight c3 here as well. I'm not really sure about this variation, because I know if you push knight, they just push, and it kind of gets off the rails from here, and it's not very good. But yeah, I need to look into this part a bit more. But I know eventually when they do play knight f3, you do play bishop blocks, and that's kind of the general idea of it. But I'm not sure what to do in the meantime between like kind of this and waiting to play bishop g4, and compared to knight just straight up playing knight g3, which happens a lot. What else is there to talk about? There's not too much to talk about here. I just don't know much, so that's kind of my area that I need to improve most on. With other openings as black, I have no idea how to counter them. You don't meet them very much, so there's kind of not much of a need. Like against the English, I just play e5. Against most things that aren't d4, e5, I just play pawn out and then bring the knights out. Like the Reti, I have no idea what I'm doing with this. I have no idea what happens if they bring it out. Or the Van Geet, or just random openings that aren't very common or are more obscure. I really need to kind of look into, but yeah. So that's kind of it. I'm looking to make this like a daily upload series, so I'll just be playing games, and very slow games, analyzing them, as most games and tournaments are very slow. So my first tournament is in a month. It's the Limerick Open, so that would be my second ever tournament. My first full tournament because I played in the Limerick the last year and I was only there for about the last day, and that didn't go too well as I was only back from a flight. But the next tournament after that is the Munster Junior Championship, and that is a FIDE rated tournament, so that's going to be very important for me, as if I play 5 games in a FIDE rated tournament under an Irish Chess Union account, I will get a rating if I get at least a draw. So my goal with a FIDE rated account is to be 17, 18, maybe 1900 at most. At the moment, I don't have a FIDE rating, but if it's around how most people would predict it to be, it would be around 15, 1600. That's FIDE ratings at around this are a smidge bit higher than your chess.com rating. So that's kind of the general kind of plan at the moment, is just to kind of improve openings and then start looking into more obscure things like the middle game, and then you need to look into endgames, how to properly do them. But endgames are generally more fine as they're less kind of theory based and more it's your own tactics, so that's pretty fine. If I'm on a good day, I'll be grand. So yeah, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you tomorrow.